Hello, this is Susan reading to you from the Provincetown Independent. Today is Thursday, August 27th, 2026. On the top story of our Provincetown Independent this morning, classics. The Cape Cod Old Timers Longboard Classic celebrates its 52nd year. The Outer Cape's annual tribute to surfing had a festive crowd and fine weather. Wellfleet. In 1974, the Vietnam War was winding down, and the Watergate scandal was culminating in the resignation of President Richard Nixon. That summer, a group of 20-something surfers calling themselves old-timers started a surfing competition at Coast Guard Beach, where it has remained. Last Sunday's Classic drew more than 125 surfers and a spirited crowd filling the bluff and the beach. The monies raised at this year's Classic will provide scholarships and toolships for students at Cape Cod Tech and Nauset High. A donation will also be made to the Lily House in Wellfleet, a hospice that recently served old-timers. While many of 1974's tumultuous events have faded with time, the memory of Mike Houghton, the force behind the Classic, remains at the forefront of the Outer Cape surfing community. He served as a surfing guiding light and mentor over the decades until his death in 2021, and was on the minds of many. He was one of the nicest guys on the planet, said Edward Krusty Gurnett, 71, from Easton. He is why I keep coming. And that is true for most of the guys. Gurnett, the Classic's 2025 Old Timer of the Year, has surfed in the event since the early 80s and is now one of two announcers. His partner, Justin Kirchhoff, started working in the since-closed Jasper Surf Shop, which was owned by Houghton when he was in the 8th grade. Kenny Merrill, who competed in the Social Security 62 to 69 heat, and Kenny Collins, Jurassic 70+, shared Houghton memories shortly after leaving the water. We still cheer Hody on, and we think of him all the time, said Collins. If it wasn't for Mike, none of us would be here, said Brent Warren in a light blue Jasper Surf Shop t-shirt. The others in the group gathered around Warren on the bluff before the awards ceremony included Jeff Gill, John McCoe, and Big Al Peterson. Along with Tom Flats Flaherty and others, they participate in an annual ritual to honor Houghton, visiting his grave before heading to Whitecrest Beach to help with the Classic. By the time the surfing commenced, the beach had taken on familiar rhythms. On the announcer's stand was Krusty wearing his standard "Warm Water is for Pussies" t-shirt. Nearby were Flaherty and Kevin Foggy Foley, later named the 2026 Old Timer of the Year. While the overall mood is lighthearted, there's an underlying sense of seriousness concerning safety and preparedness. The Wellfleet lifeguards and an EMT were present. The Wellfleet Recreation Department and the police and lifeguards did a tremendous amount of work to help us get ready, said Classic Commissioner Jamie Dimitri. We are very appreciative. The day's weather was a nice change from recent years when turbulence from far-off hurricanes caused a postponement in 21, rough conditions in 24, and last year's cancellation. On Sunday, several hours after a rainstorm had blown through, the sun was shining. The all-important surf was, as Dimitri put it, waist to chest high and glassy, clean and manageable. Perfect. The older women's division, Cougars 30+, was notable for a gutsy effort by Jean Layton, at 64 the oldest woman in the competition, and impressive rides by her daughter Jenny, who took second, and her niece Alicia, who came in first. Layton did not start surfing until she was 40 and has participated in the Classic almost every year for the last 15 years. The skill level dropped toward the event's close, but the merriment did not. Team Fat, with over a dozen competitors, including Warren, Kirchhoff, Gill, McGough, and Peterson, was in the penultimate heat. As the sun dipped behind the bluff and the fog rolled in, they seemed content for the most part to bob in the water in what, to be fair, was some of the day's calmest surf. And next up in top stories, civics. At State of the Town, a father's grief is met with silence. Tony Alvarez, father of drowned kayaker, got no answers from Wellfleet officials. By Tyler Jager. Wellfleet. The agenda for the annual State of the Town meeting hosted by the Wellfleet Seasonal Residents Association, WSRA, on the evening of August 20th seemed routine enough. The Select Board and Town Administrator, Tom Guarino, were skated to speak to homeowners who live here part-time about topics including wastewater, housing, town finances, and the marina. That's what happened for the meeting's first 50 minutes as the board members and Guarino discussed housing plans at Maurice's campground and a leak in the water tower standpipe. If anything keeps me awake at night, it's the water tower, Guarino said. But when the floor was open to audience questions, the meeting was overshadowed by official silence in the face of a father's grief. Tony Alvarez of Cotuit approached the microphone first. He spoke plainly and forcefully. "I'm not a resident," Alvarez said, addressing the 60 people in the room and about 50 more online. "My son, Nicholas Alvarez, died March 14th in Wellfleet Harbor in a kayak accident." "Everything and anything that could have gone wrong did go wrong," he said, listing facts that the Independent has reported. No harbor master boat in the water, no truck able to launch it, a lightweight Carolina skiff that was launched but ran out of fuel, and trouble with the GPS coordinates for Alvarez, who was on his phone with dispatchers while he was in the water, that cost responders precious time. "His son was on the phone for about 20 minutes, said Alvarez, his voice rising. "He was less than 2 miles from that launch." Alvarez, who was accompanied by his lawyer, Samuel Blatchley, said that he had received no answers from Guarino when he asked him what happened. He said the town's failure to respond was unprofessional, sickening, and amounted to a cover-up. The 4 select board members present, Barbara Carboni, Ryan Curley, Sheila Lyons, and Chair Josh Yeston, faced Alvarez in silence. They did not speak. For a moment, no one spoke. The evening's moderator, WSRA Chair Carl Sussman, broke the silence. "Thank you, Tony," he said. "We're very sorry about your loss." Alvarez later told the Independent that he'd tried to get to the meeting early, desperate to speak to an official about his son, and mistook Guarino for a select board member. Guarino told him he was the town administrator and couldn't answer his questions, Alvarez said. Guarino did not acknowledge or respond to Alvarez when he rose to speak either. He made only one remark on Nicholas's death in response to questions from Alvarez's lawyer. "Counselor, would you email me those questions, please?" he said. After Alvarez and his lawyer, 10 other people had questions for the town's leaders, many of which touched on housing. In his opening remarks, Select Board Chair Yeston had made a plea to property owners. "If you own an investment property in Wellfleet that you rent seasonally, please consent to renting it year-round," Yeston said. "We lose people every month because of unstable housing. It would be tremendously helpful to this year-round community to have another house to live in." Carboni said there was pressure in the Nauset School District to merge Wellfleet Elementary School, potentially leading to its eventual closure. "That is a hard no to people who live here," she said. In response to a question from Judy Wood, Carboni said there were 18 children at the newly built Lawrence Hill Apartments enrolled in the elementary school. "This is a great thing," she said. Emily Achtenberg and Don Gillis asked about the town's transfer of responsibilities away from the 11-member Maurice's Campground Planning Committee to town planner Beth Piles and housing coordinator Ann Schiffenhaus. Piles said that she and Schiffenhaus plan to speak to the Select Board on September 8th to offer our alternatives to the Maurice's Campground Master Plan and propose a stakeholder meeting group. Garini said that Piles and Schiffenhaus would be branching from the Planning Committee's prior work. We're not starting from zero, he said. Michael Altman asked about Police Chief Kevin LaRocco's remarks ahead of this year's town meeting, in which he alleged that the Lawrence Hill development had led to increased crime. Altman said he wondered if those remarks may have swayed some voters on the fence about the Maurice's plan to oppose it. Carboni pushed back on that idea. People's reasons for voting were based on a number of factors, she said. I didn't need a warrant article to tell me that there was a division in the town over that master plan. Sheila Lyons agreed, saying she believed those remarks did not have an impact on the vote at town meeting and that she was more worried about the effect of housing developments on the town's water supply. After the meeting, in the 5 days since August 20th, no town officials have contacted him, Alvarez told The Independent on August 25th. Only one member of the Select Board, Sheila Lyons, offered condolences on August 20th, Alvarez said, along with several people who approached him afterward. Everybody else couldn't walk away fast enough. Blatchley, Alvarez's lawyer, has told the board his client had 4 requests: to place the attempted rescue of Nicholas Alvarez on an agenda for discussion, to commission an independent after-action review by a qualified marine search and rescue reviewer, resulting in a written report, to preserve and produce a full record of the rescue, and to provide an update on vessel readiness before the season ends. In the 5 months since Nicholas Alvarez drowned, Wellfleet has not made any official statements about his death, aside from a post on the night of March 14th confirming that a kayaker had died. The town has not announced any inquiry or policy change either. Garino told the harbor master, police chief, and fire chief in March that discussion of Alvarez needs to be non-existent. I think people get paranoid about lawsuits, DeVasto said, but in these types of situations, I'd say, who cares? And in other news in the Provincetown Independent, Provincetown and Truro hit rock bottom on water plans. Select Board's accusations include ignoring science and sabotaging housing by Paul Benson, Truro. A dispute about water infrastructure that has been simmering since last year boiled over this summer as the Select Boards of Provincetown and Truro exchanged a series of letters and memos with increasingly heated rhetoric. The disagreement is about one question: whether an 11.5-acre section of Truro's 70-acre Walsh property bought by the town in 2019 should be reserved as a future source of public water. Provincetown's leaders say that the Walsh property is the only town-owned parcel with a clear title that could support the high-capacity well field that both Provincetown and Truro will eventually need. Truro's leaders say that other options are available and that the Walsh property has already been allocated for a mix of affordable housing and open space through a long series of public meetings and a pair of town meeting votes in 2024 and 2025. Truro also disputes the premise that both towns would benefit from a major expansion of the Provincetown water system, which currently serves about 3,400 accounts in Provincetown and 600 in North Truro. A recent study by Apex, the principal contractor for the Provincetown water system, assumed that an additional 50% of Truro's current population, or 1,227 residents, will connect to the public water system due to increased demand on the Pamet Lens and sea level rise. The two select boards have not met together since February of 2025 and have communicated mainly through letters and memos. Truro's board met in executive session several times last year because Provincetown has been attempting to take a part of the Walsh property, the August 11th letter said. While in all instances the Truro Select Board strives for absolute transparency, we have been compelled to, in executive session, discuss strategy with respect to Provincetown's repeated efforts to acquire, by a taking or otherwise, a portion of the Walsh property, the board wrote. At a July 27th Provincetown Select Board meeting, Miller and Sandberg produced a new approach, asking the Cape Cod Commission, county commissioners, and Assembly of Delegates to endorse a new District of Critical Planning Concern, DCPC, that would cover the entire Pamlet Lens Aquifer in Truro. This is our olive branch. Let's work together, Sandberg said. Enlisting the Cape Cod Commission to oversee roughly 3,000 acres in the center of Truro was not perceived as an olive branch by Truro officials. The Truro Select Board described the idea as a thinly veiled threat and a serious escalation that Truro cannot and will not tolerate in its August 11th letter. State Senator Julian Sire told The Independent that he's been talking to both towns and the Cape Cod National Seashore about future water needs. I think both towns are talking past each other, he said, and both towns have some legitimate concerns here. I don't think negotiation by correspondence has been effective. Because creating a new district of critical planning concern for the Pamlet Lens would require affirmative votes from the Cape Cod Commission, the county commissioners, and the County Assembly of Delegates, a new district would need agreement from both towns to be considered viable, Sire said. To receive county-wide approval, it's very unlikely that the 13 towns farther up Cape would want to take a position siding with one town or the other, he said. It's one of the options the two towns can consider, but it require buy-in from both Truro and Provincetown to have that happen. And in other news, under marine science, a $25 million gift will seed coral research at Woods Hole by Delaney Dreyfus. Woods Hole. As scientists warn that intensifying marine heat waves could decimate coral reefs through bleaching, starvation, and disease spread, a new center at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, WHOI, aims to accelerate science, technology, and interventions to protect and restore crucial coral ecosystems. Phil Schiller and Kim Gassett-Schiller gave $25 million, one of the largest philanthropic commitments in the institution's history, to establish the Huey Schiller Center for Reef Solutions on July 21st. Ocean temperatures this past July were significantly hotter than normal, according to the National Centers for Environmental Information. They have continued to soar, reaching the highest average temperature ever recorded on August 22nd, according to the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service. NOAA is also projecting a very strong El Niño over the Pacific, which could lead to a notably warmer than average winter in New England. Although corals are found in shallow tropical waters, deep water coral species, like those living along rocky structures in the seamounts and canyons off Georgia's Bank, are also vulnerable to changing ocean conditions such as temperature and acidity. Deep water corals grow at a much slower pace than shallow corals, according to NOAA Fisheries, and some specimens are thousands of years old. Instead of forming rock-like reefs, many species grow into feather, tree, or fan shapes, and they can easily be destroyed by heavy fishing gear before they have been seen and documented. The Schiller Center will deploy robotics, autonomous vehicles, artificial intelligence, and knowledge of marine biology and chemistry in a search for scalable solutions to the environmental threats to corals, said Suzanne Pellison, WHOI's director of PR. The challenges facing reefs are among the defining environmental issues of our time, said Peter Domenico, president and director of WHOI. Meeting them will require bold thinking, breakthrough technologies, and collaboration across scientific fields. The 5-year investment includes startup funding for immediate programs and more than $22 million in an endowment to help researchers develop and test solutions to help coral reefs thrive. The gift comes at a time when federal science funding is being slashed, including steep cuts to NOAA's workforce, fueled by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency in 2025. The Trump administration is seeking to further cut more than $1 billion from NOAA in fiscal 2027. As federal science funding becomes increasingly uncertain, private philanthropy is playing a growing role in sustaining high-impact research, Pellison said. The new director of the Schiller Center for Reef Solutions, Amy April, told The Independent that the deep-water corals south and southeast of New England are among the ecosystems that WHOI researchers will study. 10 years ago, President Barack Obama preserved a marine area the size of Connecticut as the first and only marine preserve off the U.S. Atlantic coast, the Northeast Canyons and Seamounts Marine National Monument. Beginning about 130 miles east-southeast of Cape Cod, corals grow along the walls of sea canyons and mountains at depths ranging from 1,000 to more than 10,000 feet. In one new study, WHOI scientists found that testing seawater around reefs can offer early clues to disease. Brianna Garcia, a postdoctoral investigator and the study's lead author, said the project illustrates the value of bringing expertise from outside traditional coral reef science to tackle complex questions. Phil Schiller has spent more than 30 years at Apple, including as Senior Vice President of Worldwide Marketing. He visited WHOI as a teenager to see the submersible Alvin, the 3-person vessel that explored the Titanic in 1986 and discovered exotic life forms on deep-sea hydrothermal vents in 1977. This investment reflects both urgency and optimism about the role science can play in addressing the global reef crisis, Schiller said in a press release. His wife, Kim Gassett Schiller, grew up spending summers near Buzzards Bay. What drew us to WHOI was not only the extraordinary science, but its commitment to sharing knowledge and developing solutions that can make a real difference, Gassett Schiller said in a press release. And in other news, virtual reality and AI debate trails the parade in Provincetown this summer. Bot-made images and words raise questions in a town devoted to artists and writers, by Jack Styler, Provincetown. As in most years, last week's Carnival Parade on August 20th marked the summer's climax, and the whole town seemed to spill out onto the streets for an all-day dance party. What was different this time was the number of carnival-themed shirts, posters, and float decorations seemingly made not by humans, but by AI bots. The Arts Dune Tours float, for one, featured a large AI-generated image of an old-fashioned 4-door car driving through a desert landscape. Owner Rob Costas said that he made the image with ChatGPT in February to commemorate the company's 80th anniversary. It came up with that, and I kind of liked it, so I turned it into a sign, said Costa. The dunes are about artists and writers, said Costa. That's why the AI is not really appealing to us. In the future, he said, he'll go back to relying on artists who are friends and family for his graphic design needs. Costa's ambivalence reflects a simmering debate in town among artists and business owners about the use of the evolving technology in a place that has long welcomed and inspired artists. Rebecca Orshan, a writer and the co-owner of the sandwich shop Poppin' Dutch and the Lady Slipper cocktail bar, said that she's been having conversations about the merits of using AI in Provincetown with everyone in her life since AI-generated images started proliferating this summer. Josiah Mayo, a commercial fisherman who also runs the Cape Codder Guest House, is part of that groundswell. He objects to using AI-generated images both because of the environmental effects, which include vast amounts of water used to cool data centers, and because of its aesthetic properties, he said. If it washes over the coolest town that we know of, Mayo said, that's a huge loss. Rachel Brister, executive director of the Provincetown Business Guild, PBG, said that she does not fault small businesses in town for using AI tools to promote their menus, specials, and sales, especially because many don't have marketing budgets. Nonetheless, Brister said that the PBG does not use AI for its graphics. We feel very strongly about paying artists, employing graphic designers, she said. Joey Holman, owner of The Old Baby, a shop in the West End, views AI as a cheap and easy technology that relies on stealing artists' intellectual property while degrading the environment to create images. Several companies, including the New York Times, have filed lawsuits against OpenAI for copyright infringement, arguing that the technology company's chatbots were trained with its intellectual property. This past May, Holman designed a T-shirt that reads, "Artificial Intimacy" in big green letters on the front. It has a short manifesto on the back that skewers the tech clowns who are running the world. "Instead of putting my head in the sand," said Schuler Brown, he was an early adopter of AI, and he's since used the technology to create designs that nobody could come up with. Brown said he pays $20 a month to both OpenAI and Anthropic to access upgraded versions of their models. "I am a graphic designer," he said, "but just a more powerful one because of some of these tools." The town does not have a contract with any AI provider, but that could change soon, according to Dan Riviello, assistant town administrator. But AI is not going to replace us needing to do our due diligence, but a first layer of customer service in a quicker, more efficient, more productive way, he said it could provide. This has been Susan reading to you from the Provincetown Independent. Again, today is Thursday, August 27th, 2026.